The Supreme Court has rejected a lawsuit brought forth by GOP lawmakers who wanted to essentially overturn the results of the general election in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, this lawsuit was unlikely to be heard by the Supreme Court, and luckily this was the outcome. And it's also a foreshadowing moment for a lawsuit that's being filed in the Supreme Court by the state of Texas with similar ridiculous arguments, but let me give you the details on what this is. In a one-line unsigned order, the High Court left intact a decision from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that tossed out a lawsuit led by Republican Congressman Mike Kelly, alleging a 2019 law that expanded mail-in voting in the state. By the way, that 2019 law passed in the state of Pennsylvania with bipartisan support, meaning Republican lawmakers in the state of Pennsylvania voted in favor of expanding mail-in ballots. Let me continue. Joined by 2 GOP candidates for federal and state office and 5 electors, Kelly asked Pennsylvania's highest court to throw out more than 2.5 million votes cast by mail in the state or direct the General Assembly to name its own slate of presidential electors, which the state Supreme Court said would disenfranchise 6.9 million Pennsylvanians who voted in the general election. So this is overall good news. Now, Donald Trump was probably thinking that by appointing 3 Supreme Court justices, they would always do his bidding. But it appears that in this case, they have rejected to take up this case. And again, the state of Texas is planning a similar suit with the Supreme Court. They did not file this suit with the lower courts. And what they're doing is specifically targeting key battleground states where Trump lost. And they're alleging that the results in those states need to be considered void. They shouldn't count. It's insane. So
okay, so first of all, let's just be super clear. This is great news. So one of the very last things that Trump's got in his arsenal is, as Anna pointed out, if I appointed someone, they should do whatever I say. He's never understood that that is not our form of government, that he is not king. Still to this moment, he doesn't get it. He is that stupid, let alone evil and all that stuff. But every time his attorney general doesn't break the law for him, he's like, I'm disappointed in my attorney general. I don't get it. Why didn't he just break the law for me? Because you're not king, you moron. So now he put 3 people on the Supreme Court. He's like, so obviously they'll just hand me the election. That's not how it works. You have to at least give them some fig leaf, some excuse, some evidence, some anything. And you have to do it within a pretense of the law. And he's like, I don't know, my pretense is I won. I said on Twitter I won, and I said on Twitter that Biden lost. So what does the Supreme Court just make me president again? So luckily the Supreme Court in this case was like, and held to the no. So they didn't even bother explaining if there was any dissents, meaning that there likely was not. And they didn't go into any of the details of the case. They're just like, no, they just swatted it away. So it's not completely over. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But the decision that they validated from the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, I wanna read you just a very small portion of it. They said that Trump's team had, quote, a complete failure to act with due diligence in commencing their facial constitutional challenge. So that has a couple of components. One is fix your face. Okay, facial constitutional challenge means like you're not even giving us something that makes sense within the Constitution, within the Pennsylvania Constitution. So what is your facial constitutional challenge? And then the first part of it was complete failure to act with due diligence. That goes to what Anna was saying. You had a chance to object to this law for over a year because it was a law passed to expedite more mail-in voting. But some of you voted for it, and then you told your voters to participate in it, but only after you lost the election, you said, I don't know, man, I don't like mail-in voting. That's not how the legal process works, you clowns. So now even the Supreme Court agreeing, yes, they're clowns.
And what's even more absurd, if you can believe it, is the Texas lawsuit, which alleges the same thing, that it's unconstitutional to expand mail-in ballots, or mail-in voting, I should say. But the thing about Texas is that they are suing other states for their laws regarding the electoral process. So this was filed by Texas's Attorney General Ken Paxton, and again, as I mentioned, it's being filed directly to the Supreme Court. It's not even being brought to the lower courts to hear their decision on this. And by the way, the states of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which are the targets of this lawsuit, are turning around and saying, like, who are you, Texas, to decide what our election laws should be? And of course, these are states that Joe Biden won, which is exactly why the Attorney General in Texas wants to essentially determine that these election results from these particular states should be null and void. It's just, it is kind of miraculous how many Republican politicians throughout the country would immediately turn on our democracy, our democratic process, our constitution, just to be pathetic loyalists to Donald Trump. It's really sad.
Okay, so I do want to give a little note of caution about the Texas case, and that's why I say this is not completely over. So the Supreme Court rejected this case, but this was a particularly bad case for very specific legal reasons, because the Supreme Court has recently ruled on a couple of cases saying we're not going to interfere with a state's interpretation of their own constitution and their own laws. And in this case, Pennsylvania's Supreme Court and their legislature originally agreed to all this because the legislature is the one that passed it. So it would overturn several Supreme Court precedents to have even entertained this case. That's why this was among the weakest cases in Pennsylvania. It was brought up by a Trump ally, not Trump himself. That's not very relevant, but just wanted to be clear about that. The Texas case is also by allies, obviously, it's from the state of Texas. The thing that they're gonna hang their hat on there is Bush v. Gore. They're gonna say, well, remember in 2000, the Supreme Court said we should not recount Florida because if we do, it might affect other states because it affects the national election. But that's also, in this particular case, it was absurd to begin with, but it's even way more absurd now because of two things. Number one, so Florida was stopping a recount. This would be, in a best case scenario, forcing recounts, but Georgia's already done 3 recounts. So do you want them to do a 4th one? They did a hand recount. Do you want a foot recount? Like, there is no remedy that makes any kind of sense. Whereas in Florida in 2000, it was easy. Just don't count the votes, just don't count them, right? But now Trump is trailing. That's much, much, much harder. And then if they make that precedent, then Hawaii and Rhode Island and California can sue and go, I now want to invalidate Texas's votes because I think they did it slightly wrong. And I didn't like the way that Alabama and Mississippi did it. So we're now invalidating those. It would be an epic nightmare. And I don't think even the hard right wingers like Alito and Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court could go in that direction. I don't want to underestimate how crazy they are, but to get 5 justices to agree to that madness, which would cause chaos in every national election based on the flimsiest legal idea you've ever heard, that would be near miraculous. But it's still a possibility. So the Supreme Court avenue is not completely closed to Trump, but today was a very bad day for him because strike one on the Supreme Court.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.